Welcome to the Contractor Plant Safety Orientation for the Victoria Power Station in Victoria, Texas. Victoria Power Station is a 300 megawatt combined cycle electric generating station. Recent updates at VPS have changed the landscape around the site. The plant was repowered with combustion turbine technology after it was decommissioned in 2002. If you work at VPS longer than 12 months, you will be required to complete this training each calendar year. If you are away from the site longer than 2 months and return, you must also complete the training again. The Contractor Orientation Training familiarizes visitors and contractors with the site's safety policies and procedures. This training will be revised from time to time to reflect any changes at VPS that you should be made aware of. During this presentation, you will be required to complete and pass a short quiz over the material presented. All visitors and contractors to Victoria Power will be assigned a plant sponsor. This sponsor will be your single point of contact while you are on site. You will still report to the contractor supervisor for your activities. All contractors are ultimately responsible for the safety of their own personnel. Contractors are required to follow all plant policies and procedures. Please note the site layout so you can identify the admin building, muster areas in case of an emergency, evacuation route, and eating and smoking areas. The Bottom Street gate is unmanned at this time. Currently, you will need to contact the control room for admittance. The visitor log is located in the office at the bottom of the stairs in the administration building. You will park in the appropriate parking lot, enter the administration building, and sign in and out each time you arrive and leave. If you have never worked on this site or have been away for 60 days, you must complete this site orientation and quiz. If you are a long-time contractor on the site, you will be required to complete the orientation each calendar year. Unless otherwise instructed, your entrance gate will be the one located on Bottom Street. Please note the location of safety equipment in your work area. This includes fire extinguishers, eye wash stations, and safety showers. Safety showers are located in areas where chemicals or similar hazards are handled or stored. The control room is nerve center of the facility and is staffed 24 hours a day. It is located in the back portion on the second floor of the large brick building. Smoking and eating are allowed only in certain areas of the property. These locations will be identified with appropriate signage. This drawing is the general layout for the plant site. The gates are marked on the top and right edges of the drawing. The red M's mark the muster points in case of emergency. The plant uses a system of safe work procedures to help control work being done, to ensure it is performed in a safe manner, and to ensure the plant is not unexpectedly impacted by an unanticipated action. When performing hot work such as welding, brazing, cutting, or grinding, a hot work permit will be required. Confined space permits are required when entering areas defined as confined spaces. Your plant sponsor will help clarify these locations. Ask your plant sponsor if you have any other questions on work permits. Remember that work shall only be performed with the permission of the control room. If your work scope changes, you must get back with your plant sponsor and the control room. All permits are for a specific duration, whichever comes first, until your work is complete, the shift ends, or the scope of the work changes. Remember that all permits are immediately void if an emergency occurs. There are areas at VPS that are designated as confined spaces. A confined space is defined as a space large enough for a person to enter and perform work, not designed for continuous occupancy, and has restricted means of entry and exit. Examples of confined spaces include vaults, tanks, storage bins, pits, and vessels. A permit-required confined space is defined as a space having one or more of the following characteristics. It contains or has the potential to contain a hazardous atmosphere. It contains a material with the potential to engulf a person in the space, is configured in a way that may entrap an entrant, or has any other recognized safety or health hazard. At VPS, all confined spaces are considered permit required. Contractors are responsible for providing a qualified attendant for the duration of the entry. All entries shall immediately stop if working conditions change. When your work may cause you to encounter hazardous energy, a lockout-tagout try system has been put in place for your safety. It is required that you follow the site lockout-tagout try procedure. VPS uses a group lotto system. The contractor supervisor shall walk down all lottos and verify boundaries that affect his work. After verification, the contractor places his or her lock on the group lockbox in the control room and signs the lotto record sheet. All contractors shall have the opportunity to perform the lotto walkdown. Some jobs require special precautions, such as hot work permits. Hot work permits are issued by operations when work involves activities such as cutting, burning, welding, brazing, or grinding. If your activity requires that you perform hot work, this must be coordinated through your site contact. Contractors shall provide all materials required for making hot work safe as possible for equipment and personnel. Use of welding blankets, spark catching barriers, and barriers to protect personnel from eye damage is required. Fire extinguishers shall be in good working order, staged and ready at all times. A trained fire watch person shall be stationed at each hot work location. Fire extinguishers are located throughout the facility. These are to remain in place and do not qualify as being staged for fire watch. They may be used in case of emergency, however. If your activity requires scaffolding, the scaffolding must be inspected before use during each work shift. An appropriate scaffold inspection tag shall be attached. The tag shall be signed and dated by the person inspecting the scaffold. The contractor is responsible for providing qualified personnel to perform the scaffold inspection. If your activity requires that you work 4 feet or more above the grade, you are required to wear and use a personal fall arrest system. This rule does not apply when you are working from a permanent platform surrounded by handrails and midrails, or the temporary and complete scaffolding you will be working from has proper handrails, midrails, and is inspected by a qualified person. Or you are working from a portable ladder that is 6 feet or shorter, and you maintain 3 points of contact on the ladder. You must inspect your personal fall arrest system for damage before each use. At VPS, a personal fall arrest system consists of a full body harness, dual lanyards for 100% tie-off, shock-absorbing devices, and lifeline if appropriate. The personal fall arrest system must fit properly and be worn per the manufacturer's instructions. The personal fall protection system must limit the potential free fall to a maximum of 6 feet. When choosing a ladder to perform your activity, inspect it carefully. Do not use a defective or damaged ladder. Only fiberglass or non-conductive ladders are allowed for use at VPS. Before using a ladder for work, the ladder must be secured at the top by tying it to a structure strong enough to hold all of the weight the ladder will be supporting. Remember to check the rope you will be using to tie the ladder. The contractor is required to perform safety briefings with you each shift before the work starts. These briefings are to inform you of any changes that may have occurred in the plant during the last shift that may affect your activity and/or safety. The contractor will also review the safety requirements of your activity. The contractor will document completion of the brief on the Safe Work Permit. At VPS, the minimum requirements for personal protective equipment include steel-toed work boots, hard hat, and safety glasses with side shields. Your particular activity may require that you wear more than the minimum personal protective equipment. Some examples of specific personal protective equipment you may be required to wear include chemical-resistant clothing, a face shield and/or goggles, arc flash protection, a respirator or breathing apparatus, and hearing protection for noisy areas. The contractor is responsible for providing any of this equipment. Since the plant has pedestrian traffic, vehicular traffic, equipment, and congested areas, the maximum speed limit is 5 miles per hour. In areas of congestion, please reduce your speed lower than 5 miles per hour for added safety. When parking your personal vehicle, please use the appropriate parking lot. When parking a vehicle you will be working from, do not block paths for other vehicles. If parking a vehicle in the plant instead of the parking lot, leave the keys in the ignition and the door unlocked in case the vehicle needs to be moved quickly. Never leave a vehicle idling and unattended. Vehicles not equipped with a backup alarm should sound the horn prior to backing up to warn personnel in the area. Cranes, 18-wheel trucks and other such equipment require an attendant to assist in navigating the site. If you are involved in an accident or witness an accident on site, contact the control room immediately. This applies to vehicle-to-vehicle accidents, vehicle-to-equipment accidents, or vehicle-to-pedestrian accidents. Horseplay, practical jokes, and other inappropriate behavior will not be tolerated. Firearms, drugs and drug paraphernalia, and weapons of any kind are strictly forbidden on the VPS property. Be sure to keep your work area clean. It is your responsibility to clean up your area after performing your activity. It is the contractor's responsibility to remove and properly dispose of all waste, including hazardous waste generated from your activities. Due to hazards, smoking is only allowed in designated areas of the site. Remember also that any ignition source used in the plant requires a hot work permit. These hazards include potential exposure to lead, asbestos, chemicals, and the possibility of fire or explosion. This site has asbestos and materials that contain lead. Asbestos is contained in the piping insulation and lead is contained in the paint throughout the older sections of the plant. Do not disturb any of the piping insulation or paint without consulting with your plant sponsor. If your work activity requires that you remove insulation or insulation covering material, or you must grind, weld, brush, chip, or flake off any of the paint in the old sections of the plant, ensure that your plant sponsor is aware of that activity before you start. This is an operational power generating facility. When you're on site, stay alert and listen for any instructions from plant personnel. The control room is in charge of notifying contractors of any site emergency. You may be notified orally or by radio of an emergency condition. Notifications may be made to keep you informed of a situation, or maybe for an actual emergency, so please listen closely. If the announcement is for a change that will affect your activity, stop and consult with your plant sponsor. If a plant emergency is announced over the radio, stop all work immediately. Go to the nearest assembly area and contact your plant sponsor. The two assembly areas are south of the combustion turbine generator electrical compartment and outside the control room. If the announcement instructs to shelter in place, go inside the combustion turbine generator electrical compartment or inside the control room and contact your plant sponsor. When sheltering in the electrical compartment, please be very careful not to touch the equipment. When sheltering in the control room, please stay in one place and away from the control boards. Be as quiet as possible so the operations personnel can conduct activities to mitigate the emergency. If the control room calls for an evacuation, proceed to your vehicle and go to the main gate on Bottom Street. There, you will report to the plant evacuation coordinator before leaving the site. Remember, the site speed limit is 5 miles per hour. The eye wash stations on site are integrated with the safety showers. Safety showers and eye wash stations are located at each of the areas where chemicals are handled. This includes the ammonia tank, the chemical injection areas, and the areas outside the battery compartments. If your activity warrants the need for a portable eye wash station, see the contractor for assistance. Please pay close attention to the signs throughout the plant. Signs are placed in locations where possible hazards exist or information needs to be relayed to you. Examples are signs for areas where asbestos and lead have been identified, site speed limits, confined spaces, noisy areas where you should wear hearing protection, location of fire extinguishers, and similar information. Safety data sheets are available for review at all times. If you are about to use a chemical and need to review the SDS, copies are located in the control room or electronically on the computer system. If the contractor brings a chemical on site, it is his responsibility to provide the plant with an SDS sheet and the quantity of the chemical. You are encouraged to familiarize yourself with any procedures your sponsor recommends for your activities. Copies of procedures can be obtained from your plant sponsor. In case of emergency, accident, or any other unusual event, contact the control room immediately. This includes all first aid incidents, no matter how minor, all injuries and illnesses, any near misses, and all incidents requiring emergency services. The telephone number for the control room is 361-579-0740. Remember, contact your plant sponsor if conditions of your work permit changes or the scope of your work changes. You are adversely impacted by other contractors. You have questions regarding your permit or procedures. You have any concerns regarding your safety or the safety of others. By now, you should have filled out your quiz. Please make sure your name and today's date is on the quiz and turn it in to your plant sponsor. Thank you for your time and welcome to Victoria Power Station.